So this is a diagram which explains the relationship between table spaces and tables. One table space will have multiple tables. Within one table there are multiple extents. Within one extents there are multiple database blocks, and within a database block there are multiple rows of the same table. Where can I find out the information? Like coming back to our data dictionary views, there is a view called as DBA underscore table spaces. So if you go and do a select star from DB underscore table spaces, you will see a row for each table space in your database. So your database is not just one table space, your database is made up of multiple table spaces. Your database is made up of multiple table spaces. And some of those table spaces I will name over here. The most important table space is the system. There is a name given to that. The name itself is system. There is a table space. Then there is another table space, the name is sysocs. The third table space is called as a temp. Then the fourth table space is something related to undo. The name could be anything but undo. And maybe the fifth is any others. So you can have 6, 7, you can have as many table spaces as you like. There is obviously a top limit on that, which is very high, 32,000 something. We will never reach that limit probably. But there could be multiple table spaces in one database. Multiple table spaces in one database. And these four are definitely going to be there in all of your databases, all production databases. You will have these things. There is a specific purpose of each of these table spaces. For proper functioning of your Oracle database, you require these table spaces. And now on top of that, you can create your own table spaces. These are created by Oracle, you can create your own. So for example, now the TS1, I can create the TS1 table space. I can create the table space called as fin data, and so on and so on. What would be the sizes of this? I have to decide based on the size of the tables that I'm going to create. If I'm going to create only one table, huge table of 100 megabyte size, then create a TS1 with 100 megabyte size. So that is something that I decide. Excuse me, I decide. But what are going to be the sizes of these things? Oracle require certain minimum size for these table spaces, especially the system and the sysocs, and those kind of change based on your Oracle version. Oracle version. Now, so this is what these are the mandatory table spaces here. Just remember those four there. And we'll come back to their functions a little later. What is the purpose of system? What is the purpose of sysocs, temp and undo? And the other, obviously, what is only one single purpose of a table space? One single purpose of a table space is to store tables. Okay. And those tables could be from this schema, those could be from that schema, could be from this schema. That is the only purpose of a table space. So what tables are stored over here, what tables are stored over here, and all that stuff, that is something that we will talk about. Okay. So within a table space there are going to be tables. Tables are actually, instead of tables, I'm going to use a different word called as segments. S-E-G-M-E-N-T. Why segment? Because that anything that takes a disk space is qualified as a segment. And that is basically what we saw yesterday. What will take a disk space? A table will take a disk space. Then a view. Now, view will not take a disk space. Why view doesn't take a disk space? Because it's just a select statement. If I say select star from V1, V1 is the view, and if I get 10 million rows, how much of disk space has view V1 utilized? Nothing. Because all those rows are actually coming from the base tables. They are already stored in a table. So view is dependent on a table. View doesn't take any space, but the tables on which the view is dependent on will actually take the table space. Will actually be creating extents and all that stuff. So view doesn't require any table space, and therefore view is not called as a segment. Table is that qualifies as a segment, but view is not a segment because it doesn't require a disk space. What else? Index. Index is a segment. Anything that requires a disk space. Cluster, which we have not seen, will also require a disk space. All those things are basically segments. View is not a segment. Another thing, another object which does not require a disk space. Procedure, function. They don't require any data to be stored there. They are kept somewhere else in some other things. We'll see that. Synonyms. Synonyms. They are not. Synonym sequences. No disk space is required. Okay, only right now three things that we know are the tables, the indexes, and the clusters. So I'm going to talk about segments now. So segments, one segment will be made up of multiple extents. So now just like there is a DBA table space to find out list of table spaces, there is a DBA underscore segments. DBA underscore segments, which will tell you the list of all these segments, and it will also tell you that this segment is in this table space. It will tell you that this segment is in this table space. So let us say you create a table A. By default it goes into some table space which you forget little later. How do you find out that my table space A is in what table space? Sorry, my table A is in what table space? Go to this view, DBA underscore segments, and you can find out your name over there. One row would be there for that table A, and right next to that table name there would be a table space name in which this table is, or this segment is created. Similar to that, there is DBA underscore extents. DBA underscore extents.
We can also find in DB underscore tables.
DB underscore tables will, but that will have only the tables, not the. You can find out the table space name there, but you cannot find out the indexes there. Okay, so instead of going to the DB underscore segments, you can go to DBA underscore tables. You can go to DB underscore indexes. You can go to DB underscore clusters, but all them clubbed together will be here in DB underscore segments. So this is a common question people will ask you. You have created 10 tables so far. Tell me what table space have you created those tables in? If you have forgotten, go to the DB underscore segments or DB underscore tables. Both of them. So segments is the main thing. Now the extents. Now I know that there is a segment called as A. That means I know that there is a table called as A. How many extents have already been created for that table? If I get the number of extents as 4, that is going to give me a good indication of the size of the table. Okay, so now this is our diagram. This is the hard disk. Within the hard disk we have a table space. Within that table space we have one extent and another extent. So this is a table space. So that will be here. Segment, there is only one segment. That will be here, but it has two extents, 0th and the first one, and the size of them will be the total size of your segment. If you add the size of this plus size of this, that will be the total size of your segment, or that will be also called as the total size of your table, if it is a table. So if I ask you, can you tell me the biggest table in your database? Can you tell me the size of the biggest table in your entire database? So you have a database which is a bigger circle and all the schemas which are the smaller circles. I have asked you a question. Give me the size of the biggest table in your database. So what would you do? You will go after this thing, or you can also go after this. This will also give the size of the table, and there you can do a sort by, and you can find out the biggest table at the top. Sort by the bytes there. So what is the important column there? There is a column called as bytes, B-Y-T-E-S, which will tell you the size of that segment. There is also a column called as bytes here, which will tell you the size of that extent. So there are two ways to find out the size of the segment. There are two ways to find out the size of the table. Either you go and select the bytes column from DB underscore segments, or you add up all these using the sum command, sum of select, and you find it from there where table name is equal to something else. Where table name. So this is where the select statements will come into handy. Whatever we have gone through in our select class, in our SQL class, those will be coming in handy here. So that is DBA underscore extents. There is no view for DBA underscore blocks or no view for rows. So these are the three views that you should probably remember and memorize. That will give you a huge amount of information about the size of your database. People will always ask you this question. So you support a database. What is the name of the database? Focus 1. What is the size of the database? You should be able to go and add up all the sizes in the DB underscore table spaces. So 1 gigabyte plus 1 gigabyte plus 1 gigabyte. Maybe 3 gigabyte is the size of my table space. Then the next question they will ask you, out of that 3 gigabyte, how much space is used and how much is not used? Okay, and that is where your question of wastage of space comes in. Yes, only one table is created in that 1 gigabyte table space, and the first extent is, let us say, 64 kilobytes, second extent is also 64 kilobytes. So out of 1 gigabyte, the huge amount of disk space, only 64 plus 64, 128 kilobyte is used, everything else is free. And that information can be found out by doing the mathematical calculations here. You can go here go here and find out the total size of the table space and add up all these things to find out the size of all the tables and do the subtraction. Or you can go to a view called as dba underscore free underscore space. This is a very important view from the monitoring point of view. dba underscore free underscore space. What does it tell you? It tells you the table space name and the free space in that table space that has been created, or that has been left over there, not created, that has been left. I think anybody who has started their career as a DB or will start their career, I think they will be spending almost 50% of their time with this view. Because the most important responsibility on a fresh DBA is to find out how much of free space is there in the table space. And why is that? Because if you don't know the free space, if it is too less, then anybody who is going to insert data will have a problem. Because after all of those things are filled up, then what? Then the insert statement will fail. The insert statement will fail, and therefore it is DBA's responsibility to make sure no insert statements fail. And how do we do that? By monitoring the free space. And if the free space is less than the desired, then you keep on increasing the size of the table space. How to increase that? We'll see that later. So this is what the second discussion of our table space was. And these are the data dictionary views. DB underscore table spaces, underscore segments, either underscore tables or indexes, that is also fine, and DB underscore extents. From my point of view, I think this is very important because it tells you at the lowest granular level what kind of sizes are there. Okay, so this is it.